Most gouge cane needs to be sanded. If you take your thumbnail and rub across the grain like this, you'll notice there are ridges there. And it's good to get the high spots out of there by sanding. This can also affect how the reed plays too. So if you need to put a little more brilliance and maybe a little more focus into the reed's sound, sanding can help with that. If you want a darker, warmer sound, you could consider not sanding. It's very similar to what you get when you enter a room acoustically and the room has a marble floor. Let's say you're in a church and there's a marble floor. Very echoey, right? That surface is a reflective surface of the sound waves. Whereas if you enter someone's bedroom and it's carpeted, that is a dampened surface. So you can think about the surface of the cane microscopically as being either like a marble floor, a very reflective surface, or having little ups and downs in it like a carpet would, where the sound is absorbed. So the first step with this is to take some, I've got some 400 grade sandpaper here, and the method for this is as such, dry like this, and just sand it back and forth a little bit until you notice that to the touch it's a bit smoother. Okay, now a lot of this prep work that I'm doing helps to shorten the break-in period with reeds. So one thing I like to do is to wet the reed at this point, okay, and then let it dry out and then sand it again. When you wet it like this, some grains come up and there are more high spots. This happens when you soak a reed too. So we're trying to get that out of the break-in period by getting rid of those high spots in this stage right here. So we're going to pretend this is dry for the sake of expediency and go ahead and sand it. But you want to wait till it's dry. In fact, what's really good to do is to line up half a dozen or 10 pieces of cane and wet them all at once, and the ones over here will dry and this one will still be wet, so you can sand over here and sand down the line and they'll dry out as they go. If you do it by an open window, it goes even faster. So hit it with the 400 again, like that, and then move over to a polishing sandpaper like this. This is 600, which is, it's more of a polishing sandpaper. It doesn't do so much removal. Okay, and then if you want to check, you'll really notice that the surface is very smooth then. So now it's ready for soaking. And speaking of soaking, just briefly, at some point you want to subject the cane, whether it's in tube form or in gouged form, to 2 24-hour soakings in some clean water, distilled water perhaps. Soak it overnight, change the water, soak it for another 24 hours. Why do I do this? This is another time-saving measure for the break-in period. I find my reeds break in faster when they've had that thorough soaking. I think there's some stuff in the cane that comes out during that 24-hour, 2 24-hour session soaking. And I'd rather have that happen at this point than, you know, I'm impatient. I want the reed to start working right away. So if I can do it now, I'm saving time later. So this one is ready to soak, and so we're going to move on to shaping actually, and then profiling. So we're gonna shape now, and you have a choice to make here. If you want the shape to be just a bit wider, you can shape the cane dry. Okay, if you shape it dry and then soak it, it'll expand a little bit. So that's an idea to use. You can work with that. If you like the shape as is, then soak the cane and then shape it. Either way works great with a straight shaper like this. So there should be guides on your straight shaper for front to back, but you're going to have to center it top to bottom, side to side like that. So now safety first with shaping. So put the edge of the shaper against the table and keep your hands behind the blade. And I like to start in the middle and take a few stripping cuts. I start my cut farther and farther down so I can go deeper as the cane, as the shaper narrows. Okay. Do not finish the cut at this point because you might know this, but about right here is the narrowest part of the shape, not here. And since the grain on this piece of cane is very straight, if I go all the way down to the shaper here and go strip out like that, it'll actually make a more narrow shape here by cutting into the layer below the level of the shaper. So you have to, at this point, then stop your cut here and do a back cut. So I'll show you how to do that. First I'm going to take a little more off here so I can get a little closer. So about right there is where I'm going to stop, okay? And now my back cut is done this way. And notice that I'm sawing left to right. That way I have control over the blade. It won't slip and come back and cut me. I can stop it. If you're just pulling like this, that's dangerous. So stopping like this, putting a lot of pressure on the shaper so it's holding in place on the table, and then coming back this way so you stop always about the right place. You could mark this on your shaper if you're not used to doing this. And that's just about done on that side. So I'll just quickly do the other three sides. Notice the sawing method. When you get close to the shaper itself, you want to saw back and forth. You'll get a more accurate shape that way. Don't pull or push. It's safer and more accurate. See how it got more off because of the sawing there? I'll talk about what I'm using as a shaping knife in just a minute because it's interesting. Okay. Always stop just before you get to the shaper level itself. That way you can control what you're doing. Also, I angle the blade just a little bit to get my cut started instead of holding it flat to the shaper. I think you get a better cut that way. Accuracy right here is not so important because we're going to cut that off, right? That's where the fold is, but you can finish that part too, especially this that needed to be cut off. Now this is a Fox shaper, and so it has a notch here. If you like, you can carve a little groove here and mark your center line. I don't need to do that. I'm going to do that on my easel. So, but that's an option. So this knife is actually a scalpel blade. It's a scalpel blade, and this is a scalpel handle. Okay, the blade is perfect because it's super rigid and it stays sharper longer than a razor blade does. You need something that's super thin and not flexible when you're shaping. All right, so then let's take the shaped cane out, and I did this dry, so it's ready to be soaked. So I'm going to put that in the water and soak it.